Hey there, nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back with another episode of Into Darkness. This is our series that's dedicated to Snarling and Badger Studios' Space Station Zero, and this is Battle Report number 6. This is a science-based scenario that is fought between myself, Thundrik's Profiteers, and the Skyfarer, my shipping crew, trying to survive the depths of Space Station Zero, as well as challenge number 8, which is the Science Bay. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play some background music real quick. As the music is playing, we will talk about the narrative rules about this scenario, as well as the actual challenges we'll face. At the same time, we'll also talk a little bit more about detail about Thunder's Profiteers to show you the rosters. That way you know exactly what I'm bringing for this solo campaign. So with that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll. Challenge 7, Science Lab. This room is full of strange experiments and vats against the walls. Through their smoky glass fronts, you see mutant-like creatures floating in a freakish yellow goo. As you enter, the nearest mutant eyes shoot open and begins to punch the glass, seeming to be driven into a frenzy by your presence. Within seconds, other mutants are awake. The sound of glass shattering fills the emptiness of the space station. So in this scenario, ladies and gentlemen, this one is called Science Lab, and pretty much how it works is I have to deal with two basically experimental mutants, as well as a series of black hole generators that are located in the middle of the table. Basically, I have to be able to disarm those black hole generators and also defeat the experimental mutants. Now, the experimental mutants reads, whenever these creatures were originally, it's impossible to tell. Years, centuries, or perhaps longer periods of time, and their mutation vats have twisted them beyond recognition, obliterating any trace of sentience from their mind. The experimental mutants have 12 life, 8 movement, 4 combat score, 3 reaction score, as well as 1 intelligence. Now, the experimental mutants do have modified blade limbs and oversized claws that act as weapons. These are close combat weapons given +3 to their attack. At the same time, these mutants also have a vomit weapon. The vomit weapon is a range attack. Any crew member within 2 inches of the target also suffers 1 damage, regardless of the success of the combat challenge test. Now, they do have a special ability. It says whenever an experimental mutant activates, roll a d12. On a roll of 5+, the mutant heals 2 life. This cannot carry them above their starting wounds. Now, for the rest of the scenario, we have the black hole alien technology, and starting at the beginning of turn number 2, what ends up happening is you roll a d6 and randomly choose which of these black hole generators actually kicks on. What ends up happening is that whenever I activate a fighter from this point onwards, I must take a movement save of 1 plus the current turn number. And if that test is passed, any crew member maneuvers normal. But if they fail, the crew member is dragged directly 6 inches towards the black hole. And if, of course, any movement brings them within a crew member within 3 inches of the black hole, they suffer 5 damage. And if it puts them out of action, they're removed from play. And of course, I've rolled a 6 to 11, which is the death table because it gets sucked into the black hole. So that's one thing we do have to worry about on this one as well. Now, one of these black hole generators will be activated, but the other 2 will be not. So because that what ends up happening for the other 2, they're not generated, what I have to do is take intelligence checks by moving within 1 inch of those and basically do an intelligence of 6 successes with an 8-up challenge test. And once I do that, the containers for the black hole generator get shut down, and basically it ends the scenario. Now, for the rewards in this one, I'll be able to secure a chem protection suit as well as a mini lab kit if I do manage to get this one. There is secondary agendas on this one, so if you're doing a second playthrough, they do have one for data as well as biology, so you can choose one of those if you want to, if you decide to do a secondary agenda. I did it because this is my very first playthrough, and of course, you get to choose where you get to go from the next scenario when you're done with this one. So with the scenario rules over with quick, we're going to play some background music and show you a photo of the roster for Thundrik's Profiteers, and then we'll go into the overview of the table. So with the scenario rules over, let's go and talk about the layout of the battlefield real quick. So as you can see, we have our 3 scientific experiments. One of these 3 items here will actually explode and become a black hole that we'll have to try to contain here by taking science tests in order to make that happen. At the same time, I also have 2 experimental mutants represented by the War Pig that you guys have seen from Warhammer Fantasy. He's located in this little broken ruin containment pod, as well as this great unclean one that you guys have seen from our Warhammer Fantasy battle reports as well, and they'll be stuck in that containment pod as well. Meanwhile, over here is my crew. Right over here on the bottom, that is Thundrik, Bjorgen Thundrik, who is the captain of my crew, he's my commander. In the back is Deadeye Lund, my medical officer, followed by Garon Allenson, my pilot. Up in the front is Kazgan Draxkewer, my soldier, and right behind him is Enric Ironhelm, my engineer. So with the scenario rules over with, let's go ahead and go directly to the top of turn number 1, and I go first for activations. Alright, so that takes us directly to the bottom of turn number 1. So as you can see here, a lot of activations kind of took place, mainly in the form of some dramatic movement that took place. So my very first activation, activate Kazgan Draxcure. Actually, I use this point-to-point teleporter to put him directly onto this side of the table right back here. Now the reason why I did that was so that way he becomes the closest target for these two mutants. So that way they would actually move away from my crew and directly to the back. What this does is a couple of things. First of all, the mutants are actually drawn back here because the AI system, which gives me plenty of room for me to engage him at distance with my shooting attacks and whittling him down that way. The idea was I was kind of baking as like Kazgan Draxcure would survive his attack, being attacked, and then be able to teleport back to Deadeye Lund, get patched up with medical supplies, that way you can keep on fighting. So luckily for me though, my plan pretty much worked out for the most part. I only took 2 wounds for Kazgan Draxcure, so he's about a third of the way down so far. However, I was able to put 6 wounds upon mutant number 1 up here in the top, as well as 5 wounds on mutant down here on the bottom. I was able to do so with the combination of the 3 shots from Bjordrik, Thundrik, Enrik Ironhail, as well as Deadeye Lund. Bjorg and Thundrik during his activation actually moved up directly towards this black hole device because I know that in round 2, one of these 3 is going to trigger, so I have my forces kind of spread out so that way I can get them in a location where they can actually do that. Garrett Allison is located down over here, and the reason why is because once one of these black hole devices trigger, I have to go to one of the other 2 that have not and actually do a couple of intelligence checks, and hopefully I can shut down the entire system without taking too much damage from that. And that's pretty much what ended up happening over here. So Garrett Allison actually did really well. Actually managed to roll 2 12s. That's the reason why they put so many wounds directly onto this second mutant over here. Meanwhile, Enrik Ironhail as well as Deadeye Lund basically stayed pretty much in the same deployment area. So that way in round 2, when these black holes trigger, I can start making my moves and of course shut it down. So that being said, that takes directly to the bottom of turn number 1 and directly to the top of turn number 2. Alright, so that takes directly to the bottom of turn number 1, and this is after all of our, bottom of turn number 2, I'm sorry, after all of our activations. So for the most part, of course, I did some mad scrambling. So the black hole device actually was triggered was the one up here on the very top of the screen. So because of that, now what I gotta do is do intelligence checks and try to dismantle that black hole by creating a containment pod. As you can see, not much really happened there. I was able to get any of those reaction scores off for the most part as well. At the same time, both of the mutants, of course, are carrying 6 wounds apiece, so they're both doing pretty good there. But unfortunately for me, though, they're healing up pretty rapidly. 2 of my guys could not shoot this turn because I was busy healing up Kazgan Draxcure, and unfortunately, some of my shots just kind of flubbed, and not much real damage was taking place there. Meanwhile, the mutants are moving as quick as they possibly can. They can move up to 16 inches in one activation, so these guys are hauling, so I got my work cut out for me, especially since Deadeye Lund is my smartest guy to have my crew. I really need his buffs for his intelligence checks in order to turn off these black hole devices, so I do have my work cut out for me. So with that being said, we get done with our turn number 2, we go directly to the top of turn number 3, and I get to go first. So that takes directly to the bottom of turn number 3. As you can see here, some dramatic actions took place. First of all, Kazgan Draxcure activated first. Unfortunately, he did fail his movement save, so he got pulled back 5 inches directly towards the orange vortex, but that brought him within melee range directly to deal with the great unclean one up here on the top of the screen. Luckily for me, I was able to put a bunch of damage onto that guy. I think I was able to put a grand total of 10 damage on him, so I needed 2 more before he actually got killed. I was able to steal initiative real quick, so because I didn't activate Bjorg and Thundrik, Bjorg and Thundrik was able to finish off the great unclean one as well as kill him off completely, so that's one less experimental mutant I have to worry about. Now from there, of course, we go directly, I activate again, I roll a 12 for my 3rd activation. So because I was able to activate Garrett for Enrik Ironhail, Enrik Ironhail actually decided to move up forward closer towards the War Pig, so that way he could draw attention from the War Pig, so that way when the War Pig attacked, it wouldn't go after Deadeye Lund. The War Pig did attack. Lucky for me though, my armor force of 6 actually saved my life on that one. The War Pig was able to get past that 6 up with its attack, so I got pretty lucky there. At the same time, Enrik Ironhail actually opened fire with his gun, managed to put 1 more additional wound directly onto him. What ended up happening is that this creature actually healed up 2 wounds, got 1 wound put back onto him, so that's why he's at wound 7. So we got 5 more away before this thing is actually killed. Meanwhile, for the rest of the turn, I then had Garrett Allenson activate next. He actually managed to put 3 intelligence checks directly onto the black hole device, so we're almost there to gain this thing shut down. Deadeye Lund then kind of skirted past the War Pig and tried to go directly into this machine to try to do so, but unfortunately though, he failed to do anything. He just kind of flipped his rolls for the most part. And that pretty much takes us directly to the end of the turn. So with that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 4, and I get to activate first. Alright, so that takes directly to the bottom of turn number 4, and this is basically where I clutched the game. So first thing I did is I activated Kazgan Draxcure. Unfortunately, Kazgan Draxcure did fail his movement save, so because he did get dragged back 6 inches directly towards the black hole, but I was able to move back forward 5 inches, put me within an inch of attacking the War Pig, and I just deep six this monster like it was nobody's business. Luckily for me, I rolled 3 12s, so because of that, I was able to just kill this guy outright, managed to murder him as well. From there, the rest of the turn was pretty easy. Eric Ironhill actually managed to pass his movement save, so he came up and actually tried to use intelligence check, wasn't able to do much of anything. Garrett Allenson was actually pulled up forward 6 inches, so that's why the little blue die is right next to him. But he was able to use his rocket boots, his jump boots to come back right back again, and actually put, I believe, I think he tried to do his intelligence check as well, but I think he failed is what he did on that one. Meanwhile, up here at the top, Bjorgen Thundrik actually got pulled back again 6 inches, but he used his jump boost to get back to position. Was able to put 1 intelligence check on this one, and then finally, Deadeye Lim was able to move up forward directly to this engine block. Was able to finally turn it off as well, with 6 successes on both of those. So not only did I kill the deranged mutants and lock down the terminal as well, the black hole is also deactivated, and the science bay is now safe and sound. And so from there, for the end game, of course, all my fighters get 1 additional experience point. For my rewards, I got a chemical protection suit as well as a mini lab kit from this scenario, so I'll be distributing that amongst my members of my crew. At the same time, I decided to move on to challenge number 8, is where I decided to go to next, which will be the disused bay, and that's where we'll be going next. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this one. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good to do this for you guys. I'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.